In today's brief video, we're going to discuss my top 10 food recommendations for people suffering or recovering from cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. This is a condition I once struggled from during my active weed addiction. If you're new to the channel, my name's Dr. Frank. I'm the founder of AddictionMindset recovery coaching programs, which are dedicated to helping people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content, substances I once struggled with. At the end of the video, be sure to go to the pinned comment, the link in my profile, or the video description to get a free copy of the Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome Survival Guide, and you can find links to a lot of the things I talk about in today's video. When it comes to CHS, the most important thing you can do is quit smoking weed. And I have honestly over 1,000 videos helping people do that. But today I want to talk about the foods that you can eat when you're struggling with CHS. And I broke it down into proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and then recommendations for hydration, one of the most important aspects of recovering from CHS. You have to think plain Jane when it comes to foods. You want to avoid seasonings, you want to avoid spices, you want to avoid thick, heavy creams and sauces. Think plain Jane. When it comes to the category of protein, my top recommendations would be bone broth. You can typically buy this pre-packaged, and it usually gives about 9 to 10 grams of protein per cup, along with some other nutrients that you're going to get from the bone broth. Protein is super important to prevent malnutrition and maintain muscle mass. I also recommend hard-boiled eggs if you can tolerate the omega fatty acids in them. No hot sauce, no sauces on them. Chicken and burgers. I often would eat just a plain burger with one slice of cheese on it and then unseasoned chicken. Maybe just a little bit of salt on the chicken. Protein shakes are another option. I put a link in the video description to my favorite protein powder, but what I would recommend you guys check out is Fairlife ready to drink protein shakes. They have the chocolate flavor. It's ultra filtered milk products. So they basically filter everything out of the milk but the protein. And these are really easy on the stomach, really easy to digest, and they taste delicious. I think this would be a great option for people. Now, I do want to say a quick disclaimer about that product. It does contain a small amount of aspartame, so be aware for that. It's not something I would recommend daily, but while you're struggling with CHS and trying to get in protein, this is a great shake. Shakes range from 25 to 42 grams of protein. The last thing I would recommend, which maybe I could have put in the fat category, would actually be bacon. Bacon is a source of protein, and it's also a source of fat, something that you're probably lacking right now if you've been suffering from CHS. You can just take 3 or 4 strips of bacon, put it on a plate, microwave it in the microwave, 3 minutes, and then boom, you can eat that. But soak up all the grease first with a napkin or something. Again, not everyone is going to be able to tolerate a high-fat, greasy food like that. So I get it. The cheeseburgers, you might have to do lean. You might have to do lean ground beef. I get it. What about sources of fat? I would recommend right off the bat cheese. Cheese is also going to be really good at helping boost dopamine. Cheese would be one recommendation. Kefir or goat milk kefir drinks or goat milk kefir yogurts, or full fat dairy yogurts like the one with the cream on top. And I'm going to talk about how you can combine that with fruit in a little bit. Yogurt and cheese and these grass-fed products are going to be really high in probiotics and really high in healthy gut bacteria. And that's a really important thing when you're going through CHS. Nut butters, if you can tolerate them and they don't constipate you, your peanut butter, your macadamia nut butter, your almond butter, these are great sources of fat. Be careful with peanut butter. And then olives. Olives are going to be high in salt content. Some of the olives are stuffed with blue cheese, and olives are a really great source of fat. Again, that's if you can tolerate the omega fatty acids, but they make for a great snack. You also are going to get healthy sources of fat from the hard-boiled eggs as well, and ground beef if you can tolerate that. What about for sources of starches and carbohydrates? Oatmeal, plain white rice or jasmine rice with maybe a little bit of salt and butter on it. Fruits. Fruits is one of my favorite sources of carbohydrates. Fruits are really easy to digest for most people. Bananas, pineapples, watermelons, kiwis, oranges. Think of your high sugar content, lower fiber fruit products, okay? Because the less fiber, the easier to digest in most cases. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, excellent sources of fruit, but some of the fibers might be hard for people to break down in those. But fruit is a go-to when it comes to detoxing and going through CHS. I also recommended a plain baked potato with butter. You can just poke some holes in it, bake it in the microwave, put a little bit of butter and salt on it. Plain Jane, plain Jane. If you can't tolerate the fats in the butter, just a plain baked potato with a little bit of salt sprinkled on top. All of those things, oatmeal, plain oatmeal, right? Maybe you're doing almond milk. Maybe you're trying a lactose-free, full-fat 2% milk. Plain though, not flavored milk. Plain, 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 plain. Those are going to be some really good sources of carbohydrates, which are going to help to keep the weight on your body. It's also going to spike your insulin, which should lead to increased feelings of hunger. Now, before we talk about hydration, maybe one of the most important things, I want you guys to understand it can be hard to eat at first when you're recovering from CHS or when you first quit smoking weed. Often, I was finding myself only capable of doing like some bone broth or a protein shake in the morning. And then I was having to do a larger meal towards the evenings. So I really started to focus on, okay, if I'm only going to be eating one meal a day, how can I maximize that meal when it comes to my macro and micronutrients? Macronutrients being your proteins, your carbohydrates, and your fats. Your micronutrients being your vitamins and minerals, which you can derive a lot from vegetable sources. Hydration is probably one of the most important things when recovering from CHS. I recommend pickles, kosher dill pickles. Just make sure they're not seasoned with any black pepper or anything like that that might trigger CHS symptoms. Keto chow, you can find a link to this in my video description. It's an electrolyte drop product that you can add to water, and you just put 1 or 2 drops in 10, 18 ounces of water, but it's going to help to maintain your electrolyte balance, which is super important because a lot of people with CHS wind up getting hospitalized due to an imbalance of electrolytes or dehydration, which can result in kidney failure and possibly death. Propel, I think, is a really easy drink to digest. Again, watch out for the artificial sweeteners if you're sensitive to that. And then consider picking up some ginger chews. Ginger chews are often consumed during pregnancy to help with the morning nausea. And I know with CHS, my nausea was always worse in the morning time. So ginger chews or a ginger supplement might be something worth looking into. And again, guys, look, some people, they might find that triggers their nausea. Some people might find they relieve it, which I want to say something on that. I think it's easy to drive yourself nuts psychologically when it comes to eating during the recovery from cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. Most people don't do with alcohol, caffeine, nicotine, chocolate. All those things seem to be problems for people. Real fatty fish seems to be an issue. But try not to get in your own head when it comes to food, because I don't think it would be far-fetched that someone could develop an outright eating disorder because of the perceived trigger foods when it comes to CHS. This was a very, very hard thing for me to manage and deal with when it came to my recovery process, right? I'd eat something, I wouldn't feel good, and they'd be like, oh my God, it was a trigger food, when in all reality, maybe I just didn't feel good that day. Maybe I was just having some withdrawals from marijuana or something like that. As a bonus, one of my favorite things in the evenings was cheeseburgers. Burger, bun, no ketchup, no mustard, no sauces, and plain French fries with just salt on them, salt and vinegar. That was kind of one of my go-to recovery meals when it came to my one meal a day. And guys, I'm not preaching this stuff as health food here. Sandwiches, right? Maybe you do some turkey, a slice of salami, and some cream cheese on some plain rye toasted bread, something like that. that was another go-to meal. No lettuce, no tomato, nothing acidic, nothing fibrous, nothing hard to break down. And then look into things like the BRAT diet, B-R-A-T, banana, rice, applesauce, and toast. Plain Jane foods, toast with maybe a little bit of butter and a little bit of jelly on it. Something like that. Think plain Jane. Again, the most important part to overcoming CHS is the mindset needed to quit smoking weed, because that truly is the only cure. And CHS can not only result in hospitalization, but it can result in malnutrition, which can lead to things like osteoporosis and osteopenia, a weakening of the bones, something I eventually suffered from. It can lead to a lot of problems, guys. So if you need help with this, be sure to check out the link in my bio, the pinned comment, or the video description. Pick up a free copy of the CHS Survival Guide, or consider joining our Living Weed Free in 2023 program, or book a one-on-one call. We have so many free and paid resources here at Addiction Mindset, so please make sure to take advantage of them. All right, guys, I'll see you later.